the Long Lake Conservation Center when I was just a little boy with my dad, which you see pictured here. And we came here to see Jim Kimball do a presentation on his trip to Alaska. He'd been up there birding and just exploring. And you know, there's one little bitty building here, and everybody packed in there, kind of like we are here tonight. And I remember when we walked away from it, my dad said, I mean, he was excited that here at McGregor they were building a place to teach people about the land. Dad felt pretty strongly about that, felt that was a great thing. And actually, he donated some of his time to the Long Lake Conservation Center. He did taxidermy for him. That was one of the things he liked to do. And you know, the only mount that I found around here for sure that's still his is up there on the mantle over there. He taxidermied a bar down for the center. And I just wanted to thank the Long Lake Conservation Center here for allowing us to have this service here. This is my dad's kind of place. This is what he really wanted to have for a celebration of his life. You know, my dad was born on April 23rd, 1927, over at Little Falls, Minnesota. And he grew up with his dad, Frank, that you see here, and his mother, Mary. They lived on a farm along the Platte River. And I visited the farm with my dad a few times as a young boy, and it was a good place. Some of the things I remember were well, a lot of hunting. Okay, they hunted pheasant a lot in those days. A lot of good wild game to eat. And I remember them milking cows by hand. And I remember Grandma working on her artwork. I remember sleeping in the top of the old farmhouse and how cold it got up there at night. You know, it was a good place, and they had what they needed, but there really wasn't anything too extravagant there. Dad was the oldest of a family of, with 10 kids. So quite a bit was expected of him. You know, I didn't think there was anything extravagant there until I thought about it. The one thing that I thought was a little extravagant was they had a 3-hole outhouse. You know, I can't possibly see where you'd ever need more than 2. My dad left the farm. He actually enlisted in the Marines toward the end of World War II and served in the Marine Corps. And you know, to this day, I mean, until this fall, you probably saw his hat out in the entryway there. He was very proud to have been a Marine and to have served his country. He'd wear his Marine's hat all over the place and enjoy visiting with veterans and that sort of thing. When Dad got out of the military, he went to school to be a telegrapher. And eventually he hired on as an agent telegrapher at the McGregor depot here, and worked for the Northern Pacific Railroad. And it was here that my dad met the love of his life, Eileen Paulson. And they were married in 1951. And Dad went ahead and built them a nice little house that they've used as their base camp ever since. And you know, I'm sure it became apparent to my mom early on that she was going to have to share Dad, because you know, Dad loved something else here too. He really loved the bogs and the country around McGregor, and he did a lot of outdoor stuff. Loved to pick rice and the rice bowages. You see Mom pushing them there with her push pole in the back. He liked to harvest those nice plump waterfowl that were eating that rice. Yeah, he soon discovered that there were all kinds of interesting critters hiding in those islands out in those bogs. That was one of his favorite deer pictures there. It was a nice buck he harvested. You see me there, I was a little too small to help him drag it out, but there's one person in the crowd here that helped him drag that one. You want to raise your hand up there, Doug? What was it like, Doug? Was it quite a haul?
That was a good one.
Yeah. And of course, he liked to fish. The lakes around McGregor were teeming with fish in those days. At least that's the way it seemed. Caught some nice fish. I always, when I look at this picture, I always say to myself, don't do it, Nancy, it's gonna hurt bad. She's gonna stick her finger in there. My dad also loved to trap, and here he's, I got a picture of him. It's not much of a picture, but I couldn't find a better one. It's of him with his first fisher. Fisher weren't something you could catch around here in the early days. He was pretty excited to catch that. You know, trapping, my dad always said, was what connected him to the land better than anything else. He just loved trapping. And you know, it really, if you think about it, he's holding a nice mink there. That mink, you know, might have brought $50. And $50 in those days was a nice chunk of cash that you could use to buy Christmas presents and maybe, you know, tuck away so you could take the family on a camping trip, or you know, maybe you could buy some shotgun shells. And we need a few of them, you know, or a few of those.
Tom,
And yeah,
where was that last picture at?
that was in a little lean-to north of Big Sandy that Dad sometimes would set up in just to do a little skinning so he didn't have to carry so much out. And he really enjoyed that little place. You know, I say Dad needed a few shotgun shells. Actually, he didn't need that many. He was, my dad was quite a good shot, and I got to brag about it a little bit here. He had an old Model 12 Winchester 12-gauge shotgun, and when that thing barked a couple times, there were usually some birds hitting the water. He was a good shot. And when we heard his 30-06 go off out in the bog, we heard this big kerwhump out there. We were pretty darn sure that when we came out of the drive, there was going to be some blood on the grass. He was a hunter. He loved to hunt. That's his brother Dan on the right, who lived in Alaska. And believe it or not, Uncle Dan would come down from Alaska to hunt ducks and geese and deer and stuff with my dad here in McGregor. He liked it here. And early on, he told my dad, he said, you know, this is some rich country, George. And Dad agreed with him. It really is rich country here at McGregor. You know, you got to get out and about a little bit to realize it, but it is. And with all the rice and, you know, all the waterfowl that goes with it and lots of wild country, Dad liked it here. I'm sure looking back on it, Dad never regretted taking that job at McGregor. It was a good place for him. Now, Mom, on the other hand, might have thought a little differently of it. And just think about it. She had to net all those fish and clean them and take care of the kids at the same time and all that stuff. That'd be a little tough. Actually, Mom and Dad had a really good life together. They were married for over 61 years, and they loved one another very much. And I mean, I don't think it could get much better. I really don't. They had 5 kids, and their first child was Nancy. And you know, I have to think that you know, Nancy was the most precious thing in the whole world to her dad. And you know, Nancy helped Dad build his house. She was the only one around to help him. Probably getting in the way, actually, but she was very, very special to her dad. Judy was a real spunky little girl. Still is. I still remember how happy she was, and I'm sure Dad was thinking the same thing. Wow, was that neat when she learned to ride that bike. She just roared around, and I think all of us kids learned to ride on that bike. It had solid rubber tires, you know. Didn't even have any air in them. You know, both of the girls, Lindsay and Nancy, ended up settling in Minnesota, and Nancy married Kevin Headley, and Judy married David Swedberg, and they raised wonderful families. And both girls, I have to say, I think were kind of the cornerstones of their families. My dad was very proud of them, and he loved them very much. Girls have been with Dad whenever he needed them. Then there are the 3 boys. And you probably wouldn't call them cornerstones. Probably like Rolling Stones would be you see Dad sitting kind of in the back there in the middle, and onto the right of him with the red plaid is his son Andy. Andy, quite an explorer, and he ended up heading off, explored the ocean a great deal by sailboat, and did some amazing stuff out there. And you know, I mean, he's really become a man of the sea. He's kind of a salty old sea dog, and you know, to tell you where he lives, well, he lives on his boat with Lisa. I mean, wherever his boat and Lisa are, that's where Andy lives. You know, you never know where he's going to turn up. Spends quite a bit of time in Craig, Alaska these days. To the left of my dad is my brother Beeve. His name was also called him Dennis, but his nickname was Beeve. Beeve liked to explore the high country. I mean, he liked to walk in the clouds. He was a climber. He could climb anything. He could climb rock, ice, big mountains. You know, he did mountaineering. He did all that stuff. Beeve could scamper around up there like a mountain goat. I mean, he really kind of became a mountain man. Beeve lives in Alaska with his family today. And then there's Tom. That's me sitting on the right there. To say that I was a rolling stone is probably a little much. My stone didn't roll too far from the rock pile. It only rolled about as far as Moose Lake. And, you know, I kind of spent my life, a good share of my life, picking rice and fishing with my dad. And you know, there's what they say. They say once a bog rat, always a bog rat. And that's what I was a bog rat. And I'm proud of it. I like McGregor. I like this area. Actually, you know, I became interested in geology later on, and I think the reason I became interested in it was because of my dad. My dad had lots of interests besides hunting and fishing. That's kind of just what he did, kind of as his bread and butter. But when he wanted to do something for fun, he'd get into something else. And he was interested in rocks and geology, and took us out west, and we picked fossils. In Minnesota, we loved to pick agates. We liked that Sioux Line grade there by town here all the time. Every time it rained, we'd get out there and hike it again, or every time they did some work. He picked lots of agates, and you know, he didn't just pick them, he polished them, he had all kinds of lapidary equipment, he was cutting them. I mean, he really got into rocks, made jewelry. That's kind of the way my dad was. You know, he really gave it his best. He developed a passion for something and really go after it for a time. And I just wanted to share some of his passions with you here tonight in this next stretch of this slideshow. Another thing my dad was passionate about was photography. Now, I looked through all my slides, and I'll be darned if I could find one of my dad with his camera, so I had to get a picture of his partner there. And that's my wife, Jan, and actually she wasn't his photography partner, she was more like his paddling partner. From time to time we'd do a paddle down some river with my mom and dad, Jan and I would, and Mom and I usually teamed up in one canoe, and Dad and Jan would team up in another. Some of these rivers had some nice rapids and things in them. One day we were paddling down the White River in Wisconsin, and Dad and Jan were coming down through this set of rapids, and according to Jan, Dad messed up. And they ended up on top of a big boulder, and over the top of about a 3-foot ledge, kind of the roughest place in the whole stretch of river. And here they are, they're hung up broadside, right on the brink of this drop. And Mom and I had eddied out to kind of listen to them and watch the whole deal, and Jen says, "Now what are you doing, George?" and Jan says, and Dad says, George says, keep your shirt on, Jan." And he calmly gets his hip boots out from the canoe, and he had his hip boots laying in the bottom because he didn't want to swim in hip boots, you know. And so he puts his hip boots on there, hung up on that rock, and somehow he managed to slither out in the water, and he got it off, and off they went. You know. They were actually a pretty good pair. Neither one of them got excited. Mom and I, on the other hand, they tend to get a little excited. And I'm not going to tell you about some of the verbal exchanges that took place. You want to ask Mom sometime, maybe she'll tell you. But I'm still a little embarrassed about the whole thing. Actually, Dad was really into photography. He loved it. And, he liked to do birds, photograph birds. Mom and him went into the Kimberly Marsh one time, paddled in there, and he was so excited to find out that there were lots of these yellow-headed blackbirds there, which is, I don't know, I just don't see them that often. It was pretty neat to find a place to have them. I just threw in a couple of his favorite shots. These are Arctic loons. He took these pictures when him and his sons, Beav and Andy, paddled the Noatak River in Alaska. And that was kind of one of his favorite. I know he really liked those pictures, so I thought I'd share them with you. The thing he photographed most, though, is he really liked wildflowers. And he was especially into orchids, like the lady slippers. And here's your showy lady slipper. But, that showy lady slipper was marvelous, but he wanted to photograph them all. And so he went after. Here's a small yellow lady slipper. This is a ram's head lady slipper. He'd be happy to know that I'm showing you these. Mom, what's that one called? Remember that one?
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot there. Here, you searched for it for years and years and years. Called a Calypso, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one my dad, I think it took him years to find it, and he was so happy when they found it, and I think he got a beautiful shot of it. And Mom was his partner. They had a lot of fun photographing wildflowers, that sort of thing. And of course, another thing that Dad really liked to do was he liked to do artwork. And we tried to share a little bit of his artwork with you here today, and he loved it. I think he got that from his mom. And, carving was something that he liked, but he also painted, he did sketch work, he did sketch pads, scratch boards, he did all kinds of stuff and had a lot of fun with it. My photos don't do justice for it. You gotta take a look at some of the stuff that we got displayed here to see what kind of stuff he did. Had a style of his own, and I sure loved it. Really hoping that, one of the grandkids or somebody within the relationship, when they find out that they're wired a little bit like that, will continue that tradition. That wood carving we think is really neat. Another thing that Grandpa really liked was he liked music. And you might not realize that he really liked music. And I didn't find much for pictures of his orchestra, but they had a little musical group that got together, especially on campouts. And there's Judy with the banjo there, and little Jamie, he played the, I always want to say ukulele, but it's a mandolin. And I think Grandpa has probably taken a picture. He usually played the harmonica and the not the accordion, the concertina. And David's probably out fishing or something. I don't know where he is right now, but David played the guitar, and the crew would get together on these campouts and really have a lot of fun. I tried for a while, but I just am not musical, and but we sure enjoyed it. Last time Andy and Beav were home here about 3 weeks ago, we all got together at my mom and dad's place for a get-together, and one evening Judy and Dad got together out on the deck and got their instruments out. Played a little bit. Andy got a video of it on his smartphone, and we'd like to share that with you. It's kind of neat. This would be like George Deering's last musical performance. Here we go. Let me shut that thing down there for you.
I see it on
The same thing at Hot back there. Remember they were.
Yeah, I think that's right. They were like soup down
Yeah,
there.
we dropped the work right down to them.
Yeah.
They might be down there, North, but you can't get them to fight.
Well, maybe you gotta invite a dentist along so he can say, open please.